Hello, everyone. My name is Veronica Martinez. Here is my final presentation for criminal justice systems, a comparison. In this presentation, we will compare how the criminal justice system in the US and other 6 countries, such as Great Britain, France, Germany, China, Japan, and Saudi Arabia, handle crime. We'll focus on 3 key areas: law enforcement, courts, and prison. By comparing these systems, we can learn what works and what doesn't work. We will also explore biblical teachings on justice, fairness, and forgiveness to guide how we think about crime and punishment. Our goal is to understand different approaches and find ways the U.S. can improve its own system. First, we're going to get into the United States criminal justice system overview. In the U.S., there are different types of police forces. The FBI handles major crimes, local police take care of crimes in town, and state police over the entire state. The courts are designed to protect people's rights, with most trials involving juries to decide if someone is guilty or not guilty. The U.S. has the highest prison population in the world, which leads to problems like overcrowding and limited support for prisoners. Critics argue that the focus is too much on punishment and not enough on helping people and rehabilitate. Next, we get into Great Britain. In Great Britain, police focus on preventing crimes, and most officers do not carry guns. Their goal is to build trust within the community. The courts are divided into judges handling smaller cases and crown courts for more serious cases, ensuring fairness and justice. In terms of prison, the focus is on rehabilitation and alternatives to prisons like probation used for many offenses. Next, we get into France. In France, there are 2 types of police. Police nationale, and I'm sorry if I didn't say that correctly, for cities as gendarmerie for rural areas. Again, I tried to pronounce that and maybe I said it right. Apologize. Judges play a leading role in both investigations and jury and trials. I'm sorry. Making sure cases are handled fairly. French prisons aim to rehabilitate inmates, but often struggle with overcrowding as well. We look at Germany. In Germany, police forces are both the federal and state levels work together for effective law enforcement. Judges prioritize fairness and efficiency in resolving cases. German prisons focus on education and therapy, helping inmates reduce their chances of reoffending, which in my opinion is probably the better way, right? Now we get into China. China has a centralized police system that uses surveillance heavily to monitor its citizens. The court system has high conviction rates, but decisions are often influenced by political factors. We also see a lot of political, decisions over there. It depending on what you believe and what you don't believe in, I guess we could say. And in prisons are strict. They focus on discipline, and prisoners are often sent to labor camps, which are illegal in the United States, but they still operate them overseas in some countries. Next country is Japan. In Japan, police build strong relationships with local communities through a small station called koban. The courts place a strong emphasis on confession, which leads to high conviction rates. I mean, if we would do that here in the United States, that obviously would be unjust, but in other countries it does happen. The Japanese prisons, they focus on maintaining discipline, as in China, and teach new skills to inmates. Maybe when they get out, it's kind of like a rehabilitation, I guess. So when they get out, they pick up a new skill that can help them throughout their future. Next slide we get into is Saudi Arabia. In Saudi Arabia, the police enforce both legal and religious law. The court system follows the Shahara law based on Islamic teachings. Prisons impose harsher punishments, including public floggings, and focus less on rehabilitation. I think in other countries, just as that Saudi Arabia, we see this in maybe China sometimes. They more would like to humiliate the inmate than to help them rehabilitate. It's more about a punishment, and it's kind of like you get what you deserve kind of thing. So that's what we see a lot more out there. Now we get into law enforcement comparison. So law enforcement differs greatly across these countries. In the United States, police are heavily militarized with many agencies. As I told you, we have the FBI, we have CIA, DEA. We look at Great Britain and Japan, focus on building trust with communities. They like to be more of a friendly force, a friendly community based. While in China uses technology for surveillance. Saudi Arabia enforces strict religious laws, and Germany has a collaborative approach between federal and state police. France uses two types of police for maintaining order: police nationale for cities and gendarmerie for rural areas. Again, I apologize if that's not how you say it. So we get next we get into the court comparison. As we see here, there is a list of different comparisons within the courts, which is the US, France and Germany, China and Saudi Arabia, Japan and Great Britain. Court systems also vary in the US. There is a strong focus on jury trials, as we see, in the United States, and protecting individual rights. We try to be more fair with everybody, right? We try to be. France and Germany have judge-led trials to ensure fairness and efficiency. In those other countries, they believe that maybe a judge has more competency or capability to make a decision on a defendant's future, I guess. In China and Saudi Arabia, court decisions are often influenced by political and religious factors. We do see that a lot in the Saudi Arabia countries. They do base a lot of their decisions on religious influence factors. And then we have Japan and Britain. They both rely on judges to lead trials, with Japan placing particular importance on confessions. Now, Japan has a big deal about confessions. They want an accused to confess, and we see this. We've seen it in history. I've read it in textbooks before that they would rather have a confession than to go to trial. They would rather have somebody confess to a crime, even if they didn't do it. So there's not a lot of fairness out there, in my personal opinion. But again, that is my personal opinion. So here we go to the next slide. We get into prison comparisons. We have a list here of the United States. We have China, Saudi Arabia, Germany, France, Britain, and Japan. Prisons across these countries have different approaches. The U.S. has a high inmate population, relying on for-profit prisons. China uses labor camps for strict discipline, and Saudi Arabia emphasizes on harsh punishments to deter crime. Germany uses education and therapy in prisons to reduce offending, while France and Britain focus on rehabilitation though France faces overcrowding. So we do see a lot of different comparisons in the prisons. It does look like there's overcrowding in most of the countries that we researched. There's overcrowding in a lot. Again, we have the labor camps that would never get past the United States, but in other countries, that's what they face. That's more harsher punishment for them. And I think I think those other countries kind of see that with those harsher punishment, maybe they would not reoffend when they come out, when they get released from prison or they get released from their camps. But as we see, we need more of a rehabilitation so that the offenders don't reoffend. We can't expect them to just go out into society and not commit a crime if they're not given the adequate resources to do so. So now we get into the biblical part of it. Um, I looked at a couple of Bible verses that kind of resonated with me in this whole situation when it comes to comparative justice. We have justice is important from a biblical view. And Micaiah 6:8 teaches us to act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with God. This means treating others with fairness and compassion. Galatians 3:28 reminds us that everyone is equal in God's eyes. And Matthew 6:14 encourages forgiveness, which is key to healing and moving forward. These teachings can help shape our views on crime and punishment. If we look at a lot of verses in the Bible, we do see that there are some that would would give an offender the knowledge and the comfort in knowing that they're not alone and that they are able to get better, they are able to rehabilitate, they are able to change. We see a lot of things in the news media and everything where nobody sees that an inmate can change. I beg to differ. I don't agree with things. I don't agree with those views. I agree that if we have God in our life and we can, you know, research and that we have the resources and we have everything we need to be a productive member to society, we are able to do so. Main points. So as we get closer to the end of our slideshow, here are some of the main points that I felt that were important and that I feel that helped me understand the comparative justice within these countries. So the way the country handles crime shows what it values most, right? For example, if a country focuses on fairness and rehabilitation, it reflects their beliefs on second chances, as I just spoke about. And helping people change works better than just punishing them, right? Programs that focus on rehabilitation are more successful in preventing reoffending. They rely solely on punishment. The US can learn from other countries by looking at how other systems work. The US can find better ways to reduce crime and help people become better citizens. As we see here, justice shows what a country values. How a country handles crime shows what it believes is important. We can see helping people change works better than just punishment. Helping people improve is more effective than only punishing them, right? And that's inevitable. A person is going to offend and they're going to commit a crime, whether they commit a crime knowingly or unknowingly, because that is possible. But if they're not given the resources, they're not given the second chance to, explain their part, and get a understanding, get a feel of what it is to have the resources. Maybe before they didn't have the resources. Maybe it was due to poverty, like we see in these other countries. It's due to, trying to survive, again, like we see in these other countries. And they offend and they commit crimes because they're unable to provide or they're unable to be a law abiding citizen. But if they're given resources and support, I believe that it'd be more beneficial for the offender and society and each community. It'd make the community even more safe. It's kind of like this cycle of life. We're going through offending, resources, coming back, and being a productive member of society. Here we have a couple references. I did look more into like an online, a couple of books that I ran across. It gave you some information about how different the prison systems were in other countries. But so I hope you enjoyed, And I do would like thank you. I would do like to thank you, Professor, and I appreciate your weekly videos. They were a great push for me, and thank you.